My fellowship is looking at ways in which libraries can help support digital outputs in the humanities, particularly within institutions that might lack a dedicated team or IT infrastructure to help with this. And I'm using the term digital archives very loosely here to refer to any kind of storytelling, analysis, curation, or collection of digital content, either by academics as part of their research or by students as part of their assessment. Minimal computing refers to computing that is carried out within any kind of hardware, software, or capacity constraint. And the inspiration for this project was that in my time at Cardiff, I have seen a lot of appetite among our academics to innovate by creating online exhibitions and digital collections to showcase their research. But they've typically been forced to rely on free third-party platforms like WordPress, Weebly, and Instagram to host their research outputs. And I've always been concerned about the sustainability of these platforms and whether we can rely on them to offer reliable long-term hosting or support. And I've also had conversations that have suggested that there's appetite to use digital tools for student teaching and assessment too, but people just aren't sure where to begin. And there's a good reason for this. Up until recently, Cardiff University has lacked any kind of digital repository that would have been capable of supporting these kinds of activities. But last year we invested in Armored Digital from Ex Libris, and this supports the curation and display of our digitized content. And so my fellowship is designed to address the next logical question. What capacity does Armored Digital have to support the construction of digital archives and online exhibitions? And I want to find out what our researchers' needs are and to find out what extent the repository can meet them. Asking what are its features and limitations and what other tools will it integrate with? And this kind of systematic testing, research and skill development would have been very difficult for me to undertake in conjunction with my substantive role. And the fellowship has made space for that work to take place. At a local level, I want to build research capacity by establishing what the library can offer or would need to offer in order to support researchers in publishing digital outputs to our new repository. But more broadly, I want to build capability across the sector more widely by publishing a digital toolkit. This will represent the results of my research, trials and reviews of free and simple tools that are suitable for getting started with the basics of digital storytelling, digital archives, and simple digital humanities projects in an accessible and jargon-free way. All of the tools that I'm reviewing are free to use and they are based on minimal computing. So no web hosting, no servers, no databases. Anyone can use them without local IT support or infrastructure. And it frustrates me that a lot of these very simple platforms are accompanied by unnecessarily complicated documentation, in my view. And I'm attempting to use my skills as an information professional in order to bridge this communication gap to help people who may not feel that they are technical to feel more confident to engage with these tools to support their teaching and research and creativity. The first thing that I did on the fellowship was to set up a blog using GitHub and this minimal computing method that I'd heard about. And I'm not anti-WordPress, but given the topic of my fellowship, I thought it was important to lead by example by demonstrating a way of making a free, simple website without any ads or branding that would be appropriate for a scholarly or pedagogical use. So this blog is made using a static site generator called Jekyll, and this is something that I'd heard a lot about, but had never previously had the time to explore. And it's really exciting in that it allows anyone to set up a website or blog for free and have complete freedom over the design. And I realize that it is currently looking a bit uninspiring. This is how it looks out of the box with the default template and configuration. But in theory, it is completely customizable. It's very simple. It's pure HTML, Markdown, and CSS. So it's a really great way to practice the basics of web development by playing around with the templates and learning in a very active and applied way. The blog is hosted for free via GitHub, and I said just now that I have concerns about the sustainability of third-party hosting, and I realize that this is essentially third-party hosting. But GitHub is used by every developer in the world. So if this goes down, we are going to have bigger problems than just a few digital exhibitions disappearing. It should be pretty bulletproof. And it also has the benefit of being designed for collaboration. Early on in my fellowship, I was having technical problems with Armour Digital related to IIIF, which is the framework that serves our images. Basically, the ability to share images outside our repository had been lost following a software update, and that had a critical impact on my fellowship, which relies on this functionality. And so I used this blog as a sandbox to demonstrate the behavior I was seeing and share the posts with people at Ex Libris and in the IIIF community. And they were able to read my posts, but also to examine the working code behind them to allow them to help me diagnose what was causing the problem. So in GitHub, any other user can fork or copy my code, and then they can make changes, test things out, share the edited version back with me without altering my original post. So it is a brilliant tool for collaborative troubleshooting. After making the blog, I built on my skills with Jekyll to set up another GitHub hosted site using something called Wax. Wax works with Jekyll to allow you to build free digital archives and exhibitions, again, without adverts or branding. And I think it looks really good. You can load images to it, which get displayed as a gallery alongside their metadata. And these can be filtered and searched. And even more exciting is that it can convert standard JPEGs into IIIF compatible images. And I don't have time today to go into the details of IIIF, but one of the things that it enables is this deep zooming into digital images. It looks really professional and it requires no servers or hosting whatsoever. The rest of the site can be customized for whatever you need. I've made a web page per exhibition theme, and I've embedded some interactive content that I made using other tools. So it doesn't matter too much that the page itself is simple markdown, because you can make complex images elsewhere and embed them. And this was made using a free tool called Exhibit, which was developed by the University of St Andrews. And it's one of many free and simple tools that I'll be describing and writing documentation for now that I'm in the final months of the fellowship. And the toolkit will look something like this. I'm using Gitbook to compile and document how-to guides for a range of digital humanities tools in an accessible, jargon-free way. Gitbook is part of the GitHub family, and it should be a sustainable or at least an easily migratable hosting option. And as the conference theme is partnership, I wanted to end on the observation that the fellowship has led to some very unexpected connections. Last year, I was invited on a research trip to the University of Wyoming with my fellowship mentor, Professor Julia Thomas, who's pictured there on the bottom right. And Julia felt that my work dovetailed with her own AHRC-funded project on computer vision and book illustrations, and asked me to join her to meet project partners in Wyoming's special collections and their English department. And there we were able to exchange practices and ideas related to digital humanities training, online exhibitions, digitization workflows, and digital platforms, which was a fantastic experience. And there was one very unexpected outcome. While I was slightly lost on campus one day, I asked someone for directions, and this gentleman walked me to the building that I was looking for. And during the short conversation that we had on the way, it transpired that he was researching a Welsh composer whose archive is held at Cardiff University, and which I had actually catalogued. We ended up having coffee, and the outcome was that he made a successful bid to Leverhulme to visit Cardiff University, and we were reunited several months later in Wales. And I just love that story because the world is so much smaller than we think. And opportunities like this fellowship have the potential to have this completely unexpected ripple effect. So I would thoroughly recommend the scheme. And if anyone would like information or advice about applying, I am always happy to chat. Thank you.